Hey gamers, so this is the table for our 120 point Napoleonic sharp practice game. So it's an 8-foot by 6-foot table. We are counting all woods, rivers, and wheat fields as broken terrain, and all woods, all fences as light cover and minor obstacles. So that's where we're going to go today. Let's get on to the forces. Here are the forces for today's game. We have Louis Prosper, the big boss, on the horse, leading 3 units of French line infantry. Then we have Joseph Boussard. He is also a level 3 leader, and he is commanding 3 units of Voltigeurs. Then over here we have Bertrand Cluzel. He is a level 2 leader, leading 3 units of French line, and Jean-Baptiste Girard, who is a level 2 leader, leading 2 units of French line. We have 1, 2, 3 units of skirmish Voltigeurs, led by Armand Lebrun, Julien Barbet, and Jacques Serrault, and Antoine Papon, a level 2 leader, leading 1 unit of French dragoons. Now you'll notice the names are all actual French generals from the Peninsular War, because quite frankly, I have no imagination. And on the British side, we have the big boss, Lord Robert Cuthbert, leading 3 units of British line infantry. We have John Smythe White, a level 2 leader, leading 2 units of British line infantry, and William Wallace, no relation, leading 2 units of British line infantry. Over on the far right, we have Enrico Alvarez, a leader 2, who is leading 3 units of Spanish fusileros. And in the front, we have 2 units of British skirmishers, led by Ronald Johnson and Walter Wright, and 1 unit of 95th Rifles, a level 2 leader, led by Richard Sharp early in his career. And that's the forces for today's game. Let's get on to turn 1. This is the end of turn 1, which is the deployment zone. So you can see the British, actually the French ended up getting most of their army on the table before the British even got anything. Then the 2 British lights came on. So you've got a British light unit here, the main British force in the center here. The rifles came on, and the Spanish and another unit of rifles of light troops there. The French decided to bring their line troops. You can see, because they came on first, they had a massive advantage moving up the table. The French cavalry is on, the French light troops, and the main body on this side as well. So if we look at the forces that are left, the only ones who have not come on is the French Voltigeurs and the British regulars. That is the end of the deployment zone.
Can we take these out?
Now we're going to turn 2. We have just reached the end of turn 2. The British skirmishers made it all the way into the barn, and the British moved up on this side. Not a lot happened. The French did move up and broke into attack column. The 95th Rifles with Sharp, using a Sharp's practice to shoot, he managed to kill 2 guys and put a couple of stress on them. Almost killed their big boss too, but hey, that's Richard Sharp. The Spanish decided to move off to the wall on this side because the French managed to roll 2 massive numbers and just rocket up the table. No other casualties because there was no other firing. You can see the French light infantry in the woods over there. So we're turning into the big battle is going to start this turn. There's going to be some death. That is the end of turn 2. Turn 3 was a very short turn because there only 4 cards came out before the Tiffin card. All that happened was the leader 1, the big boss, ordered the unit here to fire. Then the other unit moved up and went into line. But the only thing that happened was 4 units, there was 4 stress put onto the skirmishers in the front there because everybody else was out of range. Those skirmishers and the French skirmishers there did fire into the big boss's unit, but due to really bad die rolls, only 2 stress were placed on them. And at the end of the turn, the light skirmishers, British, moved into the woods there, and that's pretty well all that happened. We are now going into turn 4. Turn 4 was really, really short. Only 2 cards came out. 1 British flag and 1 British leader won before the Tiffin card came out. The British one moved up, they fired a controlled volley, and then 3 flags came out, which caused an event, which means they surged forward and took the crossroads. They fired, they put a lot of stress on the French main leader, and I think they completely flubbed, hitting the skirmishers. And with the command card, the British moved up to the fence line, fired into the French coming up the road, and scored 2 casualties. And that's all that happened in this turn. We are going on to turn 5. End of turn 5. So what we have here is the British on this side moved to the second story and fired. They're actually supposed to be, no, they're not, and fired in and basically did nothing. The British in the center, though, they used a sharp practice and a regular to fire into the French moving up. Didn't really do a whole lot, caused some stress and a couple of casualties, but not a lot. Now, the French, their reserves, they broke up into groups to move the groups up past the line here. They also spent a ton of cards to reduce the stress on the big boss's unit. So the stress is down, they're still losing casualties there. On this side of the battle, the Spanish decided to run, cause some stress on themselves just to try to get into the battle. First fire for the unit of British regulars, firing into the French over here, did manage to cause 3 casualties due to some bad die rolling, and wounded the leader there. Oh, also the British leader down here got wounded to the point where he has no command left. And that's where we're sitting at the end of turn 5. You will notice that the French here decided to run up between the buildings, rolled a 3, and basically didn't move very far. The cavalry did move up into the river too. On to turn 6. Turn 6 ended with just 2 cards coming out. One British flag, 1 French flag, and the Tiffin card. So what happened is the French decided to withdraw their line troops, but he didn't get past, his skirmish troops did not get past his line troops. And down here, the British fired into the column coming up the road, managed to force enough stress that it broke the formation and forced them to withdraw. So the command right now, we started at 13 in the game. We're down to 12 for the British and 10 for the French. And that's where we are right now. It's the end of turn 6. End of turn 7. So this turn was quite interesting. The British fired into the French and didn't do a whole lot. The French actually fired for the first time and killed 1 British trooper, which is the first casualty in the game. The French are really on the ropes in this one. The Dragoons fired, didn't do much as they actually completely flubbed 10 dice and failed every one. Over here, the Spanish moved up through the field, but the French over here managed to move right up to the fence line. So they are ready to form up and start powering some damage into the Spanish on this side. The French look like they're on the ropes. The command is still 12 to 11. So there's a long time left in the game, and that was the end of turn 7. End of turn 9. The British decided to move up into the wheat field on this side, and the light troops came out of the house and rolled really well and moved up on the left flank. Down here, Sharp has not really done much for the whole battle. He's whittled down the unit over there, but not much else. Over here, the British in the center actually took a lot of stress, but they managed to get it back with a well-played set of cards. But the French are at least fighting back now. Over this side, the Spanish moved up, and the British moved across the road to give the Spanish a chance to line up on the fence line there. The French did manage to bring back their 2 units of regulars by reducing the stress quite considerably. But the British decided to move out of the woods and across the table. So the British are really pushing now. The French are actually getting their lines together. So it's going to be a bloody next couple of turns. Again, we are in the end of turn 8. So at the end of turn 10, the French over here managed to devastate the Spanish, put a lot of stress on them, but the Spanish did fire back, didn't do much to the French. Center of the table, the British moved up, but the French pulled back. They want to pull back and relieve some stress. Center of the table, the British fired, put a little stress on the French in the middle. The French didn't activate before the Tiffin card came up. And the British moved up into the wheat field, fired at the French with the commander, who backed out of the wheat field, and the French light infantry were fired on from the British light infantry on this side and pulled back, which made 2 army checks, but only one of which caused a reduction. You'll also notice that the main French commander, the big man, moved from this unit over to the center unit there to get a little bit more protection. And that's how we ended turn 10. So this is turn 11, and it went bad for the British this turn. The British did manage to move up the side and fire into the side of the French, which broke 1 French unit, but that's the only good thing that happened to the British. The British fired into the center and devastated the French. They're stressed, like to the point of almost broken on the middle. And on this flank, the Spanish are pulling back because they're all so massively stressed. We need to do something about it. The problem is the British had 6 flags when the Tiffin card came up and didn't get a chance to use any of them because they didn't get any commands. So the battle is turning on this side. The French are definitely dominating on this side of the table. Over there, it's still yet to be seen because at this point, the French have now got their elite voltigeurs lined up in the woods, did a devastating blow into the British. But they did manage an event came up, and there is a massive pall of smoke in the middle of the field, giving them cover. So that's where we're sitting. We're going in to the next turn. So turn 12 was the final turn of the game. The British moved up on the side, used a sharp practice, broke the unit with the big boss, who both broke. The light troops here broke them and they ran down the line, so that caused more break. In the center, the British moved up the center, shot at the light troops, who then broke, ran through the other troops and caused massive breaks there. And it ended up with the British at 10 and the French at 2. And at that point, the French thought better time to leave, and they quit the field. Now, just to show how close this was, even though it doesn't look close, all the Spanish here are at their maximum stress. So they were ready to break. The British in the center, every unit, 8, 5, 4. So every unit, just one more, and that would have caused them to fall back or break as well. So the British weren't in the greatest shape. A lot of their troops were stressed out. And that's how we ended the battle. The British did not take the bridge in the end. And it was a great battle. We did 12 turns. This was a 121-point game. Did you guys learn anything?
Sure.
Die rolls are bad.
Roll low.
Yes. Mind you, Ray over here, who's running this side, was doing very, very well. And his die rolls were actually incredible. When he needed to hit, he hit. And when he had to take stress, he rolled 1s and 2s. So he rolled what he needed to roll. The dice gods were definitely with him today. Charles, poor Charles, he rolled the exact opposite. When he needed to hit, he missed. And when he needed to save, he rolled high. So, but that's pretty well Charles's forte. Whatever he needs, he won't get. And that's the end of the battle. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to do more of this. And we also play Clash of Spears here. And we're going to be running some Clash of Spear games. And I'm going to eventually do some battle reports for that as well. Thank you for watching. My name is Vincent. And I am Sir Games-A-Lot.